best investment is getting yourself in a better state. And you have to have that self-love, self-care to do that for yourself. So it's about having that kind of just that balance, that equilibrium, that equanimity, the sweet spot, and realizing when you're away from that. And if you're away from that, just taking some time to take it easy and just find it again.
It's about presence, and is allowing those sacred vibrations to take us into that place of stillness, of nothingness, which holds everything. And then taking action from that balanced space is usually much more positive in what it leads into and outcomes of that.
Hi guys, it's Dean from I&I Insight, and I'm excited to introduce another episode of I&I Innerviews, the interview series in which I&I interview inspiring individuals who are helping to create positive change in the world through their work, to understand more about their vision, their values and their journey so far. In this episode, I'm excited to welcome Kamalroop Singh and Shamir Singh, two members of the Blue Lions, a band of Sikh warriors who travel the UK and the world, spreading their spiritual music in the form of Kirtan, helping people to connect with one another, themselves and with spirit. This is a great interview in which the Blue Lions share a lot of wisdom about their own personal and spiritual journey, which is also applicable to many of us in terms of how we maintain harmony and equilibrium and get the best out of ourselves on a day-to-day basis in the work that we do. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy the whole interview. So, Kam, Shamir, welcome.
Thank you.
So we just experienced a beautiful Kirtan yesterday, led by the two of you in Leeds, Jamyang Buddhist Centre. I believe you did another ceremony the same day or the day before in Manchester. You're going back down to Glastonbury and Northampton later today, and then further travels to Ireland, I think. So yeah, just wanted to check in first of all and see how you guys are doing, and how do you manage to maintain your energy and take care of yourself while you're traveling, moving from place to place, staying in different people's homes sometimes, and you know, just being very busy and on the road. How do you manage that kind of thing day to day?
I think you have to value time. You can't get complacent. Obviously when we meditate and we go into deep states, you reach kind of a timeless feeling where you don't really notice how hours are flowing by or minutes. But it's important to respect that framework of the material reality that we're in and its limitations. And if you start doing that and you just keep a little bit aware, not too much that you're stressed, but a little bit, then you can be quite efficient and you just manage your time. And the other biggest thing is just to relax, and in between just try to have little naps, you know, take it a bit easy, try to clear your mind. Obviously, because we meditate and our work is Kirtan and medicine work and healing work and yoga and breath work, we're doing that along with whoever joins us. So we already get that depth of relaxation and introspection, and that keeps us pretty fresh, I'd say.
Fantastic. Anything else would you like to add to that, Shamir?
I think for me, what I've learned, and being on the go, being in motion, in movement, has been part of my journey for many years. But I've really learned over the last years to resource my energies better. In the past, maybe I would push towards my limits into the direction of what people could call burnout, maybe. But then realizing what Cam shared as well in regards to meditation, like one aspect of meditation is that it brings in stillness. And even if we are in motion, if we can anchor and ground into that stillness that is within, then we can be moving really fast and to many places, but we still feel very still within. And therefore the motion doesn't drain or exhaust in a way if we were like not in the presence of like inner stillness, and that makes a big difference.
Fantastic. And do you have particular practices, your own kind of routines in terms of meditation, prayer, yoga, etc.? Do you have things that you do on a daily basis, and are you able to maintain those when you're on the road and travelling? Do you do things at a set time, or do you adapt to the circumstances?
I think you have to adapt, because if you get rigid about things, that becomes like a stressor. So you have to have fluidity, and Shamir said it really brilliantly, having that stillness and cultivating that. And so we have our own mantra, breath work practices. And even with myself, because I've been on this path quite a while now, I just wake up automatically early, and my mind will just wake up. There's nothing I can do. Even if I'm tired, I'll wake up. And then instead of fighting that, sometimes I'll read the news, I'll do something, read my emails, read messages, deal with things for the day early on. But I'd say at least half of that time I'm just meditating. And I try to at least get half an hour in early hours of the morning. And that kind of gives me a lot of stillness that, in the morning, like now generally I'll be quiet. And I start my work on a day-to-day basis around 10 and midday. And it's because I want to be in silence in the morning and not really speak to anybody or kind of give energy out. And then I plan my day like that, and then that stops me, like Shamir was saying, burning out. Because we're constantly with people. I think this year I was with people every single day other than one day. So you imagine every single day, a group of people or an event, somebody at your house, you're treating somebody. It's not a problem. I feel really blessed that I can do that, and the connection with people is very important for me. But equally, to be alone and having that solitude, silence, cultivating that, it's a big medicine. And having a routine with that every day, that's really what keeps you going. Doing some mantra, breath work, alternate nasal breathing, just deep breathing. Even when I'm driving, like on the way here yesterday, I was trying to get 5-10 minutes in, and I'm counting myself on the clock, because I know how tricky the mind can be. You can, I've done a minute, I feel better, but you're not going to reach that depth. And just what else am I going to do if I'm sitting in the car? And then I use that time wisely to find that grounding and stillness, so we can continue on, and so that I can give the best part of myself to people. And I'm not stressed, not irritated, I'm with the flow, I'm in a serene state. That's also important, and that, I think it builds your confidence. And then you're easy with people, you're not going to freak out, you're not going to get angry, you're not going to get stressed, and you start trusting yourself and you start building more resilience. But if you keep the discipline, so discipline is key, but your attitude is also key. You could be stressing about the discipline and being really rigid about it, then that's become another problem. So it's about having that kind of just that balance, that equilibrium, that equanimity, the sweet spot, and realizing when you're away from that. And if you're away from that, just taking some time to take it easy and just find it again.
Mm-hmm. I like that you said equanimity there, which was a key word which came up for me when doing Vipassana meditation last year, the 10-day meditation retreat. And it was actually said there that when we practice meditation, when we maintain equanimity more of the time, that can actually mean that we don't even need so much sleep, and that people tend to need more sleep, or the common person needs a certain amount of sleep because their mind is probably working too much a lot of the time, so they need more time to rest and sleep. And maybe if you're in more of a meditative, equanimous state more of the time, then maybe you don't even need so much sleep. Is that something that you've found yourself? So
yeah, definitely. I think that equanimity, that relaxed state, has a direct influence on our physiology and our bodily functions, right? If we see stress makes the adrenaline go up and our body burns much more energy. And if we are in a balanced, relaxed state in that state of equanimity, we will exhaust much less energy. So it definitely makes sense. And you see yogis in India, I met some yogis that sleep 1-2 hours a day, and that's enough, because they are in such a state of peace, inner tranquility, that their body is not exhausting any energy. So it definitely makes sense and resonates. Yeah.
Fantastic, yeah. And I think it comes back to something I think I heard you say yesterday at the ceremony, or my interpretation of it at least was about, you said about, you know, recognizing when you're in harmony, recognizing when you're in disharmony. And I'm not sure if you said this part or if I extrapolated about, you know, not trying to necessarily do too much when you're in a state of disharmony, and maybe waiting and trying to get yourself into more of a state of harmony before you act and do things, and that can actually be, you know, a more productive use of time as well, potentially, rather than kind of chasing things and being in stress as a lot of people are, and then things don't necessarily work.
Exactly, it's like the best investment is getting yourself in a better state, and you have to have that self-love, self-care to do that for yourself. And I think that even on a psychological level or a scientific level, where you look at, there's a handbook of psychology about different diseases, and I think it's called DSM-5. And I was reading through it a few years ago. They might have upgraded, it might be 6 now, but it was 5 when I read it. And one of the conditions of mental illness is people don't take care of themselves. And so if you want to be in a healthy state, it requires you to clean, wash your hair, brush your teeth, cut your nails, all the regular things. But there's also, that's external, but there's the internal, and how you're going to recalibrate yourself every day. Because anybody who lives a full life, you're going to have stress. You're going to have time constraints, maybe financial constraints. Some relationships could test you emotionally, mentally, work, stress, etc. And then how do we deal with that? So according to DSM-5, there are 2 options. You have a negative coping mechanism and you have a positive coping mechanism. So negative one would be, you need to go and have a cigarette and sit outside and talk to some people, and the nicotine calms you down, reduces the anxiety. Then you get into a habituation and addiction. Could be after work drinks, alcohol, could be pornography, could be gambling, could be a number of things. But the intelligent thing for a person to do, and the healthy thing, is just to learn to be calm normally, and to constantly be in that process. Call it meditation, call it relaxation, call it calming yourself down, but that requires discernment. And I believe discernment is actually more simple than we believe. It's a choice, but we have to realize, I have that choice. I have to reflect on that and say, I have this choice to either go this way or go that way. We can say in life we have choice. We have like some determination on our environment, on our life, and the main one is how we react. And so there's reaction, there's action. Somebody could be diagnosed with an illness. An intelligent person will look for a solution. What do I do to change my eating habits? Say, for instance, it's diabetes. Or they could just have a fatalistic view, like, I've got this now, nothing I can do. But the intelligent person would be like, let me keep my sugar down, let me get an exercise routine going, let me do some breath work, blah, blah, blah. Let me have some massages to release the stress, that type of thing. And so discernment, we have to make the choice to use it. And it's about choice itself, which is a paradox. We have to make the choice to use choice. And that human freedom comes from that. And our own sense of determination. And so we must use that to act in the right way with self-care and self-love. And sadly, talking about something negative, when people are neglected as children, their mother or father didn't look after them, their felt sense of abandonment, they find it very difficult to look after themselves. And they kind of need other people to prop them up and look after themselves. But the best achievement for that person is learning to love themselves, even if others didn't love them how they needed to. And so there's a lot of deep reasons why we don't take care of ourselves as human beings, but we have to learn that this is the best kind of option. We need to use the intellect, like, to get to that reasoning, and then make that, like, program it, like, write it down hundreds of times on paper, or keep saying it to yourself, I have to make the right choice for myself, I have to make the right choice for myself. This also translates not just about meditation, this could be the partner you choose for your life. You could settle and have somebody a bit shady and dodgy, and you've got love for them, but there's a lot of other things you don't like, but you're not exercising your choice fully, are you? And then you're in a situation you don't want to be in. So many people find themselves in that. And I'm not saying my life is perfect. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying these are things I've learned in life. And so choice is such a massive factor that people factor out of their life. And they kind of live a fatalistic thing, like, this has got to be the same old. But it's not. There's just so much we can do. There's so much we can play around with. And if you do that for yourself, you're doing a really good thing. Not just for yourself, everybody. Like, if you're in a family environment for your children, you're teaching them how to be calm. You're teaching them to keep centered. You're teaching them the value of silence. You're teaching them the value of being measured. And so this is not outside of reach for people. This is very much in reach. And I think what we were talking about last night about technology, about AI, nanotechnology, robotics, all this kind of stuff coming in, we're going to need it even more than ever, that we're more centered as we have less and less things to do. And why? So we can value the human connection. Because it might be within the next few years that we don't have any real stresses. So if you go to Africa, you go to some tribes, their stress is if they're going to get eaten by a lion. We don't have that here. You were talking about your surname earlier on, the killers of the wolf, that's on your book here. And the thing is, we don't have that stressor now, do we? We don't really have the stressor in the Western world about whether we're going to eat or not. Our major stress is work, finances, and it might get to the level now in the next 10, 15 years where that goes out the window. Then the next stressor will be, how am I with my brother here? That might become the real problem, because that's the only one. It's true, isn't it? When you only have one thing to think about, it amplifies it. If you've got 20 things to think about, if you're managing many things, little dramas don't mean anything. But when everything's just empty, and then that is going to really put the onus on human relationships. And so we're heading for something very different than what we've been in currently, for quite a while.
It's really interesting, thank you. And yeah, I think that's a lot of wisdom, and it shows the applicability and the relevance to the wisdom that you describe of, taking care of yourself and taking that time for yourself to try to develop and practice that equanimity, that harmony, and self-care as much as you can, because the world outside is changing constantly, and we can't control our outside environment, but we can control our inner environment, and our immediate practices and our immediate behaviour. And that can apply to different contexts, different people as well. We're going to add something there.
Yes, like as Cam shared, as an example, right, human relationships, acting from harmony, which was your initial thread, right, or from disharmony. And then again, the question of choice, which you can link with the term of responsibility, right? I have the ability to respond if I'm aware of that, which is the choice that Cam was speaking about. And in human relationships, let's say an intimate partnership, it's very easy to get triggered by the external, right? And very often it happens that we act from that trigger. So it's a reaction instead of a responsible responding in a conscious and aware way. But if we don't focus on the external, as you shared, but we take care of our inner environment, we will recognize, okay, I am triggered right now. How can I balance what is going on within me, right? If it is emotions, how can I balance my emotions? Even though the external situation might be the same, right? I can come into a place of harmony and equanimity, and then from there respond and go into interaction with my partner, which will create much more harmony in the relationship. But if I react from the discomfort or the pain that got triggered within me, it's gonna create more pain, and again another reaction. And that's what unfortunately is happening so much in human relationships, where we don't take responsibility for what we are feeling within ourselves, but we project that into the external. But we have the choice to take a few moments, say I need some time to breathe, I'll go for a walk, regulate myself, and then taking action from that balanced space is usually much more positive in what it leads into and the outcomes of that.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Fantastic. So this ties in with your own modalities, your own work, I believe. I believe both of you do various bits of coaching and therapy and ceremonies. We'll come on to the Kirtan in a moment, but if you could each maybe just tell us a little bit about what you do as well in your other work individually.
How would I describe it? I work with people mainly one-on-one settings, in person, online, in group settings as well, to help people to remember and embody who they've truly come here to be, to help and guide them to connect to a deeper state of inner harmony. And there's a wide range of modalities that I work with, which is from sound healing, craniosacral therapy, plant medicines that we work with as well, different meditation practices, mantra practices. There's a wide range of studies that I did over the years and initiations that I received that I pass on in various settings, and feel very grateful that is being received, and that is that which has helped me in so many ways, that I can offer that to others for them to support their journeys in their lives.
And Cam?
Similar to Shamir, but my emphasis is more on Ayurveda, and I tend to work with a lot of people with addiction. That's generally the people who come my way. I'd say 70-80%. Then after that is some types of diseases or mental problems. And that's what I do on a day-to-day basis, of trying to help them kind of increase their quality of life and get out of that situation. And it's really rewarding when somebody makes that shift in their life and you actually seeing them thriving and doing well, and that makes you feel really good. One example is a young man from Afghanistan, and he came here as a refugee, and sadly some of his family members were killed by Al-Qaeda, and he didn't see, but he was nearby as a child, and obviously his family shielded him from seeing what happened. But you can, in a child's mind, you can imagine what he was going through, the fear. And sadly, a few years after that, he became an alcoholic, and he was drinking a couple of bottles of whiskey a day, and the police would pick him up off the road, take him to hospital. This was his every few days, and now he's completely doesn't drink. He's working, he's getting his health back together, and that's really rewarding. And so it's you can see why these things happen to people. Anybody can have everything one moment and they can lose everything the next. Everything in life is on a string, on a thread. And so it's having that understanding of how that someone's life can spiral downwards, and then helping them, like literally breath by breath, day by day, to kind of just turn it around and get themselves out of that hole. You can facilitate, but you can't really take credit. It's that person's own bravery and their ability to face those feelings that they've hidden from themselves or put away. And that's really the kind of process. I know with Shamir's work, similar as well. And so we're really working on the shadow. If we want to use Jungian terms, if you want to go by Eckhart Tolle, then the pain body. But it's the same thing. And how trying to increase awareness through different modalities to see that pain body and to allow it to start to move. Giving it the space and creating the space for that person that can come out in a easiest way possible. And giving them sort of coaching around it, and also allowing them to integrate afterwards. Because it's all well and good to say that, it sounds easy, but a lot of our psyche, our mind, our ego, our thinking is around that pain, even subconsciously. Now suddenly that pain's removed, the person feels completely different. And if you don't guide them in the right way, they'll feel like a loss of identity, loss of self. That can become another trauma, another problem, another thing that they're avoiding. So it's like carefully setting that moment up where that pain can leave and they can reintegrate, get used to their new identity. It's not they're going to be a new person, but there's going to be a shift inside, a radical shift. And how do they integrate that and move forwards? So it's not just a question of healing in inverted commas. There's a lot to this psychologically. And unfortunately in the world we live in, unless you haven't got money, like a lot of money, and you have a good therapist who'll guide you through that weekly, society doesn't really offer this. And we're really doing that, taking that role of making it affordable for people and giving people a chance outside of the kind of, I don't know how to put it, the conventional treatments. I've got nothing against conventional treatments. I've seen them help people who are really suicidal. They need to be sectioned. They need some therapy on that level. They need some type of medication. But at the same time, I've seen people just stuck in that for years and years. And then that's where they find people like myself, Shamir, and Gibby, who and others. Then there's a whole family of us, like in shamanism or acting like shamans, in and around the world now. And it's because there's a need. It isn't because we want to take advantage. It's because also individually we've had to go for our own healing and our own trauma and work on that and try to find peace with ourselves. And because we've been through that process on quite a big level, we're able to resonate. We can't judge anyone who comes to us. It's not like we're in charge and they're less. We resonate with their problem. We know what it's like to be in that state and what we had to do to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's really powerful, thank you. And so Kirtan, another modality that you both work with that you shared with us in Leeds yesterday. For those who don't know, who may be watching, listening, could you just tell us what Kirtan is, and maybe what your kind of brand, your flavour of Kirtan is, and what you bring with the Blue Lions and why?
Kirtan is a term that comes from India and is related to chanting holy names, holy vibrations, connected to different deities in like the Hindu tradition, connected to different expressions in the Sikh tradition that relate to the divine in different forms, the divine masculine, the formless divine, the divine feminine. You might have heard, or the people that are watching, listening might have heard the term of mantra as well, which could be translated as it's like a prayer, but then at the same time again it's like a sacred vibration, a holy vibration. Mantra also can be translated as like a vehicle that can carry our mind, a vehicle for the mind. So these are different words, but it's not only words that we can understand with our intellect, with our mind, but these expressions of vowels and consonants that create syllables, that then create words, also resonate with energy circuits within our kundalini, within our energetic embodiment. And so the repetition of those sounds, those syllables, those words, facilitates a purification process within our energetic field, within our consciousness. And that is the practice of Kirtan, with different instruments, different melodies. I think there's so many different strains also of how Kirtan is presented. Like if you look at the Hare Krishnas, it's usually a very joyful way of expressing that love to the divine. And I think what we express in how we as the Blue Lions share Kirtan is about presence, and is allowing those sacred vibrations to take us into that place of stillness, of nothingness, which holds everything. And is different compositions that we have created based on classical Indian music, which is a rag music, which is different moods that are being shared through the different melodies. And yesterday it was the two of us that were sharing. On other occasions is other people that join the Blue Lions. So we have people joining us with violins, with the bansuri, tablas, and so we can paint the tapestry of sounds accompanying the sacred vibrations that we utter in different ways. And is continuing to develop as well. So I just started learning the bass guitar recently, so we will develop into the next year our music as well, and how it's being shared with the people.
Fantastic. It really is beautiful, and it's something that I've only become interested in the last couple of years. And I think for myself and probably a lot of people who maybe we tend to have overactive minds, I think sound is such a powerful medium, and mantra as well, because it almost bypasses the kind of conscious thinking brain, I think, to an extent, and you really feel it, vibrating in your body and in your spirit and in your soul. And I feel like obviously you guys are from a Sikh tradition, and people deliver Kirtan from other perspectives, and you were working in a Buddhist centre yesterday for the ceremony yesterday. So I think it's interesting how it's spiritual, but not necessarily espousing any particular religious faith or tradition or anything like that. I thought that was really interesting yesterday, and how you tied in and shared some stories and some messages, connections between your Sikh philosophies and ideas and Buddhism and so on, and to anybody. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode of I&I Innerviews so far. If you are and you'd like to continue to watch, I'd ask you to do just one small favour. Go to my website, go to iandinsight.com/community and join my I&I community mailing list to get immediate access to the second part of this video. Here's a glimpse of what's still to come.
It's so easy just to have exact fixed things, but then that becomes stale, and then that becomes a performance. And that's really important for us to have that creative license as well, and the ability to kind of change things and work with them. That's, to us, that's more fluid and it's more life.
We gotta weave it together without wanting to pressure anyone. We want to have enough space that everybody can be present in their own personal purification, personal development, their own lives, their own works. And then if we evolve in those aspects, right, then we can come together as the Blue Lions, stronger even, and share from a different vibrational space.